Welcome to Dawnversations. Today we have Dr. Jamey Maniscalco. I just want to make sure I
Yes,
said it right.
perfect.
And we're going to talk about stress, nervous system, all the things. I think people can get very overwhelmed with all the information that's out there.
Yeah.
So, what I thought would be kind of fun is if we did some myth busting. Are you game for that? If I throw a couple
Ooh,
myths your way and see?
absolutely.
Okay. Because I think that that's kind of a fun game show kind of way to get the information out there. But my
Yes.
first one is um, all stress is bad.
Oh, yes. This is a common perception. And to give you a little bit of background on me, I've been studying stress for the better part of, oh my gosh, it's been about 2 decades now. So I've researched it as a neuroscientist. I've taught it as a neuroscientist and at an undergraduate level. And I have brought it to the community for outreach, things like that. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about stress. And for most of my career doing this, everyone contextualized stress as bad, something that needs to be reduced, eliminated, mitigated, avoided. And it wasn't until, for me, maybe 5 or 10 years back, but the literature and the science was a little older than that, that the benefits of stress started becoming more and more prominent in the research and more talked about. And there's some work done by a Stanford researcher. Her name is Alia Crum, that is stellar. And she's got some TED Talks and some other great content. So check her out if you like this. But she has started doing some research on the mindset around stress. So not stress itself, not do you have a demanding job or do you have a full family that requires a lot of work or are you in a challenging relationship? Those things set aside, it's how do you perceive stress? And
Oh,
what she's
wow.
dug into is if you believe that stress is bad for you, it has worse consequences. And this is not just kind of some ethereal, out
Hmm.
or, maybe you perceive things differently. That's true. But we see it in the hormones. So you can see changes in how your stress hormones are released if you believe stress is bad. You
Wow.
see it in work performance, in mental health. You're more likely for depression, anxiety, poor performance at work for like concentration, attention, collaboration. And that's all very scary.
Yeah.
What she's also shown, and what's now emerging in other realms as well, is if you think stress is good, stress helps me. Actually, stress, I like being a little stressed. If I'm not stressed, I don't perform my best. Stress is a time when I grow through stress. I learn through stress. I only stress about things that I care about, that bring me meaning, bring me purpose. Stress is amazing. I can't imagine a life that feels like I don't care about anything. That'd be so boring, so
Oh,
unproductive. If you can take that mindset, what you see is those hormones flip and they change to actually benefit you, not only your brain, but your body, your behavior, your thoughts. And you see the same thing in the workplace. And this literature in the science is really emerging now. And I believe it is going to be a hugely important direction in terms of stress research, neuroscience research, psychology research, and more importantly, human benefit in the coming decades.
gosh, that's fascinating. So it's not just about having stress, but it's your perception of the stress for how it will affect you. God, that's interesting. Because we
Yes,
we can convince ourselves of anything. I think, if
exactly.
you say it enough or you think, if it repeats in your head constant, then you just assume that it's correct.
Exactly. And this is a challenge. We come to things like, when news stories aren't as regulated and we're not sure what's real or what's not, you hear something over and over again and you believe it's true without knowing it for sure. That could be a detrimental thing. And we talk about that a lot as a society. However, what we don't talk about is how can I leverage that? And what I
Right.
see it as is a fake it till you make it. I'm going to tell myself that I believe stress is good. And if I do that enough, and if I tell myself in my head enough, I believe stress is good. I believe stress is good. Actually, I'm so excited for this work project. It's going to be really difficult because I'm going to be so much better because of it. The cool thing with these mindsets is you don't really need to believe it at first. So you can be like, I don't really believe it, but I'm going to keep saying it because our internal monologue is basically like having a conversation with your best friend all day. And if the
Hmm.
conversation with your friend is super negative, you are going to continually think super negative thoughts. But if you force yourself to frame things as a positive and you have that mental conversation constantly, it actually changes the way your brain is structured to default to seeing the positive due to what we call neuroplasticity or the plasticness of your brain. if you are working your brain in a certain way, just like a muscle, you
Hmm.
grow muscle. So if you're working on your positivity muscle, you literally grow your brain's ability to be positive versus if you're negative Nancy all the time,
Yeah.
you're strengthening your ability to default to negative.
I love that topic of neuroplasticity. That's how I just got so infatuated with brain stuff. And I read Psycho-Cybernetics. Have you ever read
Yeah,
that?
I
Yeah.
have not. Yeah, but
Oh
what is it?
gosh, you
I
have to
have not
read
read it.
it.
Yeah.
It's so, well, for a layperson, it's good because it makes it seem pretty tangible. But um, it was fascinating because he talked. Well, you'll just have to read it anyway. My thing is how long, or it might be different for everyone, but if you are trying to retrain the way that your brain, that neuroplasticity, how long does it typically take? Is it like when you're trying to form habits? Is it the same idea?
It depends.
Okay.
But the true answer is it depends. It depends kind of on how strongly your current mental habits are ingrained,
Hmm.
as well as how committed and intensely you're focused on retraining your brain, as it were. So if you are tending towards the negative side, but you're kind of a balanced person generally, but you really just want to improve. You don't feel like there's a huge issue, but you want to shift away from negativity that you see a little bit. And you're really committed. So you write these post-it notes and put them on your computer. You every morning wake up and do gratitudes. You make sure to tell your best friends, like, hey, I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to talk current events. All I want to do is positivity for the next month. It's probably going to go much quicker than someone who is more ingrained in a negative thought pattern and
Okay.
doesn't have concrete, actionable strategies to change the way that they're thinking.
Right. It's not going to just happen.
And it's difficult. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that comes, a lot of these changes within wellness, within stress, they are simple, but they're difficult. And so here, you can say it and you can believe it, but unless you're acting it, you're going to find you're struggling. And this is where I found a lot of my coaching clients have ended up. They know what to do generally. We see that a lot as coaches.
Right.
We don't need to tell you what to do. You know what to do. We need to help you figure out how and why. Why is this important to me? And a
Yeah.
lot of that I think people never get to. I want to be less negative. Why? Why not be negative? Oh, because you feel like you're in a bad mood all the time and people really want to talk to you because you're always negative. So, but it's the way you default. You have a
Right.
reason. And if you have a reason, if you have a purpose, you're going to be much more willing to struggle during those early weeks or months that you're trying to make this the way you think because you're driven by something bigger than an abstract idea.
Right. But you're saying it is okay to fake it at first.
100%.
Okay.
100%. And I've a lot of these things have changed into mantras for me. And so I still sometimes don't believe it. My gut reaction for many things is I don't believe it in the moment. And I have to have that negative thought first,
Hmm.
pause, and then say, no, I'm glad there's traffic today. I really like the podcast I'm listening to.
Huh?
I kind of want to be at work. Like, I don't really want to, but okay. Now what I've done is I've given myself a good reason to be in the car. I've refocused away from I'm sitting in traffic grinding my teeth to let me think about this really cool Dawnversation podcast I'm listening to
Right.
and or
Right.
whatever it might be. And here it's that pause and that shift. And you can still have that negative gut reaction, but if it lasts 2 seconds versus 2 hours, that's a huge improvement in your life.
Right, that's true. And it does matter too who you surround yourself with. Because, like, I have my sister, my mom, my husband, they're all very turn it around. They can be so positive about things where I'll be like, oh, I wish it wasn't raining, this and that. Yeah, but the yard needs it. And it's like, gosh, it's inspirational. I wish that I
Yeah.
could just take some of that and have it because it is refreshing to be around people like that that can just see the brighter side.
Yes, and I think here, I think it's easy, and I've gone through this for most of my life, I would say. I would have a negative reaction in that space. Ugh, these always happy people, like, come back to reality, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, and that's an easy gut reaction to have is a
Yeah.
reaction. But here, understanding that it's not that they have something I don't, or they have something that I can't get. It's that they've trained themselves, whether they know it or not, or they've been trained based on their environment, based on who they've spent time with, to have a glass half full perspective.
Right.
I could be as frustrated and angry as I want about not having it, or be judgmental and a little cynical about it. Like, are they really adults? Or are they just little kids in this world who think everything's amazing? It's easy to be negative. It's
Yeah.
hard to stop and say, how can I, like you were saying, Dawn, get a little bit of that? How
Yeah.
can I find this? And the thing that stops most people is it doesn't come immediately. But if you know that your brain is plastic, and that your brain is ready for change. This feeds into kind of that neuroscience, feeds into the psychology known as growth mindset. That's really blowing up right now. It's Carol Dweck is a psychologist who really, she wrote a book called Growth Mindset, and she's the leader
Okay.
in this field. But the idea being, we all have a mixture of growth mindsets and fixed mindsets. And so it's easy for some people to say, okay, I have a growth mindset about exercise. If I go to the gym every day for the next 6 months, I'm going to see progress. But that same person might say, I'm not a morning person. I can't go to the gym in the morning. Well, why can't you be a morning person? Well, I'm just not. It's never going to happen. You have a fixed mindset around this. And those
Right.
fixed mindsets really lock us in. I'm not a math person. And then we say it and we reinforce it. And so here, if you can stop and say, what do I really want to be? What are the things about me that I love? How can I strengthen those? What are the things about me that I'm not so happy about? I'd love to change those. And then stopping and recognizing first that you can change is the step that I think gets most people stuck at. They feel like it's insurmountable. And so a lot of times what helps is come up with a plan. Take a few baby steps and get a few small wins. Try to remind yourself to think positive once a day. Just start with once a day. That's better than yesterday.
Right.
Then when that gets easy, go with 2 or 5 times a day. And eventually in a month or two, you're going to do it without thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, because it's easier and faster to complain and to
Exactly.
do nothing. It's like, yeah, no.
Right?
Done. Check.
Right. And then if you're with people who are on that same mindset, it becomes a
Yeah.
vicious downward cycle. You
Misery loves
complain, they
company.
complain. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Second myth. If you
Yeah.
don't feel stressed, your body isn't stressed.
Oh, great question. So that is not true. That is
Right.
myth. You can have bodily stress without recognizing it, and without feeling stressed. And you can, it's kind of interesting, the dynamics of this, because I'll give one example here. We live in a world where we struggle generally as a society, as a group of people, to really feel ourselves and feel our internal state, which is a lot of are we stressed or not? It's happening
Hmm.
inside of us. This is called interoception. Exteroception is our five senses, right? We can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch the outside world. But inside of us, interoception is my heart racing? Do I feel tight in the chest? Am I digesting my lunch or is my stomach churning?
Hmm.
Can I focus right now or is my blood pressure really high? Whatever it might be. And we live in a world in which exteroception, being in the outside world, has gotten so much more intense, mostly due to screens and social media, that we can avoid feeling ourselves. We can avoid recognizing our bodily state. And so we can be having chronic anxiety responses. We can be having chronic stress responses. And we do such a good job of moving from one thing to the next that we struggle to recognize maybe how tense we are. All of a sudden, at the end of the day, you realize your shoulders are sore because you've been tight all day, because you've
Yeah.
been meetings, meetings, meetings. Then you had to talk to someone, then you had to write emails, and you didn't realize that you never took a breath and relaxed yourself.
Right.
And so here, the perception of stress does not necessarily match the reality of a bodily stress response. And what I've found to be the most helpful thing in living in a world that is very stimulating, but being able to feel myself is mindfulness meditation. And I'm not always a great consistent practicer, but the idea for those of you listening or watching that aren't aware of mindfulness meditation, Mindfulness meditation is really the most succinct way I can think about talking about it is the non-judgmental experiences in the present moment. So living in the present moment, not thinking ahead, not reflecting behind, but being here now without judging. And here, because you can't think ahead, because you don't think behind, you're in the present moment, it tends to be very sensory focused. So meditation tends to be focused on the breath in many cases, or feeling your body as it's seated or laying down. And the more you're able to do this mindfulness practice, the more you're able to recognize how your body feels. There are areas of your brain. There's one called the insula, region of your brain that sits right over here, kind of on the side of your head by your temples, a little above. It sits deep in the brain there. And the insula is all about feeling your body. And because your brain is plastic, you can strengthen your insula to better be able to feel yourself so that you can stop and recognize, oh, my heart's kind of racing right now. I'm having a bit of a stress response. Why is that? And if you can stop and assess, then you can recognize what's kicking off that stress response. Why are you so anxious? And then you can take small steps to actually do something about it. All right, if I'm really stressed right now, I'm not thinking as clearly as I should. And I really need to think clearly for this 3-hour team collaboration to hammer out this project. What can I do in the next 10 minutes before this meeting starts to calm myself so that I'm the best version of myself for the next 3 hours? You can't do any of that unless you first recognize.
Right. So if you do notice that in yourself, do you like go into the bathroom? I mean, what do you do? You go in your car and just sit
Yeah,
there and just start meditating? I mean, tell me what it looks like.
absolutely. So for me, my whole approach is I want actionable and frictionless ability to engage in wellness practices. So I would not, for some people, okay, you've got 10 minutes. Can you do 10 minutes of meditation? Sounds easy. Most people won't do 10 minutes. It
Right.
feels like a long time when
Yeah.
you're there. So what I like to do is I like to think of things that are very close to that are science backed and known to help. So things like mindful breathing breaks. And you can go in private if that makes you more comfortable. I'm a pretty comfortable guy, so I tend to just do these wherever I am.
Yeah.
But I will, if I am anxious about something coming up and I realize I'm not thinking clearly, I need to gather myself, but I don't have much time. First thing I do, I close my eyes. Most of the sensory experience we're taking in is visual. So by shutting my eyes, I'm immediately quieting my brain by not taking in as much information.
Okay.
And then I like to do the 5-finger reset. So I like to breathe in through my nose as I trace up my finger, and then breathe out through my mouth like I'm breathing through a straw as I trace down. Repeat for the first finger. Breathe out. Breathe in. And we keep going through the hand.
Okay.
And this does two things. Well, it does many more, but two things that you can anchor into. It's focusing you. Your brain is scattered. You've got your meeting, but these emails are left unsent. And I need to talk to this person, and I'm going to be running from this meeting to grab my kids after work, and I don't even know what my plan is for dinner. Right? You've got all these things going on that your brain is thinking about, and it's not able to focus on any one thing.
Right.
All of a sudden, you're tracing your hand. You are bringing your focus to tracing your hand, something that's in the present moment, not future forward or retrospective. And you are focused on the sensation. You can feel your one finger tracing. And secondly, you're slowing your breath.
Right.
And what we know is by slowing your breath, and especially extended exhales, so breathing out as long as you can, activates the part of your nervous system that is calming. It's called your parasympathetic nervous system. Most people know it as the rest and digest nervous system. This is the opposite of fight and flight stress response.
Okay.
So if you're feeling stressed, you might not be able to tell yourself, it's okay, don't worry, right? But what
Right.
you do is if you breathe and you exhale, you're forcing yourself to calm down, even if your brain doesn't want to.
Yeah, and those are two things that you would be doing normally anyway. You could be breathing, and
Hmm.
also you could have your hands in your lap or have them on your desk in front of you or whatever. So if you're around people, it's not going to look weird for you to just be breathing in deep,
No.
trace the outlines of each of your fingers. Yeah, that's something that's easily accessible for anybody because you're breathing anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, and I've done this in meetings, like in heated meetings. And I don't like to close my eyes then because it's very obvious I'm doing
Right.
something, not paying attention. So I like to lower my gaze to kind of where the keyboard aspect of my laptop meets the bottom of the screen. There's nothing there. I just focus on that, but it kind of looks like I'm listening intently in the meeting.
Right.
Instead of listening, I focus on the breath and I imagine myself tracing my fingers to kind of anchor myself, but just 5 deep breaths and you're back. This will take all of 30 seconds and
That's
you can help
awesome.
reset yourself.
So I noticed on one of your social media posts you talked about going outdoors, spending some time outdoors. What do you suggest for people that are in the city or, they can't just get out to beautiful Colorado, you
I
know,
know, right?
they can't go on vacation, maybe they can't afford a vacation.
Yeah,
What do you suggest for somebody that can't get to those kinds of beautiful surroundings?
absolutely. What a wonderful question. I'm so glad you brought this up because being around nature is such a powerful tool, and it is virtually free of cost. So here, there's very little cost, if any, for most people associated with this. Maybe the opportunity cost of time, as
Yeah.
it were. But if you are in a city and you feel like you're in the concrete jungle, or if you are shift working and you have to be inside somewhere all day, and by the time you get out, it's dark, whatever it might look like, you can bring nature inside with you, which is, to be very quite honest, it's not as good as being out in nature and
Right.
backpacking for 4 days or whatever. This is dose dependent, but it's so much better than not that I honestly think it might be one of the more powerful things you can do because the difference between no nature and some is in many cases going to be stronger than some and more. So
Okay.
here, what can you do? First thing is get nature in your visual field. So make your screensaver, make your desktop, have some pictures on your desk of nature, whether it's you in nature or just some natural pictures.
Mhm.
There have been studies showing that you don't need to actually be out in nature, that looking at natural environments for as little as 30 to 40 seconds just on a screen can help restore attention and focus.
Wow.
Likely that looking at them for a bit longer will increase that. The studies are yet to be there, but the evidence points that way. So
Yeah.
get some visuals, get some audio. So if you're in a place where you can pop in an earbud or you can play some soft music, if you're in an office, whatever it might be, play some nature sounds. Vary it up. Maybe it's ocean sounds. Maybe it is forest sounds where you can hear birds chirping and chipmunks, squeaking or whatever that might be. Audio and hearing is very underrepresented in most people's minds. They think, how do I see nature? But we forget how much we hear.
Yeah.
Third, bring nature inside with you. Get some plants inside, and get a desk plant. Get a really hardy plant, a plant that really doesn't take much care. I'm terrible with gardening. I'm terrible with all things plants. So finding plants that really don't require much maintenance, or having a friend at work kind of help maintain it and chat about the wonderfulness of the plant. But bringing the nature in with you is also a very strong benefit. Having a plant, having other things like that, flowers.
Right.
And then for you city people out there where it's hard to get out, I can't go hiking like we would in Colorado. These benefits have been shown to be very robust in urban green spaces. So city parks, tree-lined streets, these also have benefits. You do not need to be hiking in the Rocky Mountains. You do not need to be surfing on the coast of California or whatever it might be to get the benefits of nature. Walking by some trees is a very powerful green and nature exposure tool.
Yeah.
Here, even if you're stuck in the city, if you're working at a hospital system right in the middle of the city, whatever it might be, you have a break and you're able to walk outside for 10 minutes next to a city park. That's going to be more beneficial than most people give credit for.
That's awesome. So do
Yeah.
you focus a lot on diet too? And like people, if they want to drink or smoke, or I mean, do you focus a lot on that or do you try and keep it more just about mindset?
No, I do. I bring nutrition into it. And really my perspective is trying to bring in what I know about the science of this, especially the brain science, and then looking to find the most actionable and practical, and judgment-free approaches. So if you are someone who is drinking, and you're looking for better ways to sleep, awesome. Your goal is to sleep better. Maybe you want to cut down on alcohol, or maybe you don't. Um,
Hmm.
but here, you want to sleep better. Alcohol's terrible for sleep. It really is. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate. I'm not judging you. You can drink as much as you'd like. Like, I'm not here to judge your lifestyle. I've had periods in my life where I drank a lot. I've had periods in my life when I didn't drink at all. And I was a good person through all of it. And here, without judgment, understanding, okay, how do we make this reasonable for you? So if we're thinking about your diet, we're thinking about your alcohol consumption, for example. Maybe you don't want to give up alcohol. You like going out and having drinks with your coworkers. That's social time. You
Hmm.
like opening a bottle of wine at a family dinner. That's family time. Or you're in an environment where your friends all go out and drink and you don't want to lose your friends. I totally get it.
Right.
Totally get it. How can we take drinking for you and make it more intentional versus habitual? All right, you finish every day at work and you pour yourself a whiskey because that's your note, your transition from workday to evening time with the family or evening time on my own. Does that drink give you a lot of pleasure? Personally, what I found was I started drinking pretty much every day, especially in the summers. I'd have a beer with dinner. I'd have a glass of bourbon at the end of the night. It's summertime, it's beautiful. I'm sitting on the porch chatting with my wife. It's a great time for a drink and to relax. And what I realized was those drinks weren't bringing me much. That I didn't need bourbon to sit on the porch and relax with my wife. I wasn't looking to get drunk or like really loosen up. It was just a habit for me.
Hmm.
And so what I shifted into was, okay, could I do something else? Could I have a non-alcoholic beer? Could I have a sparkling water on most of those nights? And then instead choose what I want to drink because it's a really nice bottle of wine and I don't want to pass this up.
Yeah.
Or it's a party and I want to loosen up a little bit. And I'm feeling like stressed and a drink is really going to help me loosen up. And I know it's going to harm my sleep tonight. And I'm okay with that because it's
Okay.
just one night and it's not every night for the rest of my adult life.
Right, right, right. Did you hit a rock bottom, or what got you so that you wanted to even get into this field?
Oh my gosh, great question. It's really multifactorial. So there's a lot of things for me that go into this. But to distill it, um, I've gone through a lot of health challenges in my life, and I've seen close family members go through them as well. When I was in college and graduate school, late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, I struggled with a lot of anxiety. I still do. But maybe not struggle as much anymore. I think I've got good ways around this now. But I really struggled with anxiety and a little bit of depression during those years. And I didn't cope very effectively. I got into very kind of compulsive and non-pleasurable exercise. Like I need to get my 5 mile run in, not because it makes me feel good, not because I'm stronger for it, but because I have to do it to reduce my stress. Became kind of captured. And eating disorder, really, anorexia, and
Oh,
restricting
wow.
food intake as a coping mechanism. And it took me years to figure out through a combination of therapy, medications here and there, as well as finding wellness practices to figure out how can I live my life for me and really be thriving instead of just trying to survive due to things like anxiety. And this became a huge challenge when my father got diagnosed with lung cancer and ended
Mm,
up struggling through stage 4 lung cancer and passing away a few years later. And I was very, very close with him and was a very close caregiver. And so it was really hard to watch him, a very healthy person, 65, so pretty young,
right,
through this and recognize that you can be very healthy, but that doesn't mean that you're invulnerable.
right,
And so working through that and seeing that really got me interested in how can we live our best life? How can we live in a way that is not beholden to health and wellness? I do not want to feel like if I don't tick off all my boxes that I'm having a terrible day. What
right.
I want is freedom. I want to live my best life because my brain and body are functioning at top notch, firing on all cylinders, which allows me to be active, be with my family and be present, have a job, have friends, think about creative and new things because I have the capability to do it. Whereas when I wasn't as healthy, whether it was mentally or physically, I wasn't as able to do those things. I
Right.
lost freedom. And so going through this, I started seeing this and I started embracing wellness and finding that it gave me energy, it gave me clarity. And so I was already well into this wellness journey and thinking about starting the company that I've started now, Manifest Wellness, this wellness coaching and consulting firm. I had been thinking about that for years. And then last year, 2024, I got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I got fortunately a very different trajectory than my father. It was testicular cancer and it was treatable. I had surgery and I am in remission and should be cured. We're continuing to monitor,
Oh, that's
but
phenomenal.
it is. It is. And honestly, the first feeling I had to bring this back onto mindset when I was told this is cancer. There were a lot of feelings, but the most pronounced one was gratitude. I and I don't think I could have done this 5 years ago. I don't think I could have been grateful. But the first thing I thought was, I'm so grateful that I'm well attuned to my body, that I felt this lump, that I recognized and had the courage, I suppose, to take action on it, that I
Right.
had a physician, my general practitioner, an amazing person, that he was willing to listen to me, to take me seriously, to not push this off, to order an ultrasound, to take a look at it. I was so thankful that we had technology like ultrasounds, like CT scans and x-rays, so that I could find this and deal with it. And that we have brilliant surgeons who can go in and do laparoscopic surgery to take care of cancer. And I was walking later that night, like, oh my gosh, I felt so grateful.
Wow.
And that was because
Wow.
I had, worked through that kind of gratefulness exercise, trained myself to see this. And I reflected on that thinking, oh my gosh, if I had been in my 20s, I would have been woe is me,
Yeah.
cancer. But now I'm like, no, I'm good. I got cancer. I dealt with it. Hopefully that's the end of
Oh my gosh.
it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because a lot of people they hear that C word and that's it. And you
Yeah.
wonder how much of it is mindset. And I am not dismissing medicine or diagnoses, nothing. I'm just saying sometimes words are very powerful and hearing that sentence of cancer
Yeah.
can make people think that's it for me. It's
Yeah.
written, it's done, I'm done. So
Right.
that's amazing.
100%. And to be very candid, I was very fortunate in the cancer that I got. Um, Among the range of cancers you could get, testicular cancer is a very manageable one on the whole, very, very survivable on the whole. So I
Yeah.
don't speak for everyone who has diagnoses that are more challenging than mine, but there is science and there is literature showing that mindset about cancer can improve symptomology, including pain and
Wow.
anxiety during treatment. So for people who
Gosh.
go through even life-saving treatment, when you know the chemotherapy and the radiation are almost certainly going to do the job and you have a 85, 90, 95% chance of eradicating the cancer, um, you're still going to deal with a terrible amount of anxiety and a lot of physical pain due to the treatments as well as due to the cancer. And what we see is that a mindset and in things like mindfulness meditation can significantly improve patient symptomology. So if you are going through something where you're struggling through pain and through anxiety, there's a degree to which Western medicine and drugs and pills and things like that can and do help, and you should absolutely consider these things. But most people don't even attempt to complement these with things that are a bit more holistic, that are just as science-based, like mindfulness, like cognitive behavioral therapy and reframing, decatastrophizing, and cognitive reframing are huge tools.
Yeah.
And people just hope I'll take the drug and it'll work for me. But they don't put the work in on the other side to allow the drug to do its maximal effect.
Right. Mind over matter. Wow.
Yeah.
So you help a lot of people, and then obviously you're dealing with just coming off of all of that with the cancer. So how do you take care of Jamey? How do you decompress and get yourself to feel refreshed and vitalized and ready to go every day? What do you do?
Absolutely. So, I'm going to throw out a bunch of the things that work really well for me. And what I want to start with, though, for your listeners, is I don't do all of these every single day. So I think there's this kind of fallacy, especially on social media, that, okay, if I wake up and I have my lemon water and then I cold plunge and then I journal for 30 minutes and then I meditate for 20 minutes and
Yeah,
then I
it's
reflect.
noon.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I'm ready to start work. And you're like, oh, crap. Um, and most people, and here I work with a lot of working parents, people who have very little time. Um,
Right.
and so what I try to encourage is try to do one of these things a day. What's speaking to you? What's easy? Go with the easiest thing. Don't make your life harder. It's already too hard. How can you find an easy way to fit wellness in? So the things that really work for me that are also not as time consuming are starting my day with gratitude journaling. It sounds way more intense than it is. 2 minutes or less for me. I write down as specific as I can be, three things that I'm grateful for. So not my family, my house, my dogs, but I'm so grateful that when we went to bed, my daughter said, "I love you, Daddy." Oh, oh my God. So last night finished so great. I'm so happy about that. And I am so happy that it is a blue sky day here. That puts me in such a good mood. I'm going to try to make sure I look up at the blue sky here as much as I can today. Not, I'm grateful for the weather. So starting with these three things, three gratitudes, and oftentimes I'm just like, I'm glad my coffee's still warm. Like very basic things. Like I hate drinking lukewarm coffee. It's still hot. That's a win.
Right, right.
But this puts you in a positive mindset. It's shown to reduce cortisol levels, it reduce your stress levels immediately, and it starts your day by thinking in a positive mindset. So I
That's
like that.
fantastic. Yes.
I like also intention setting. And again, I keep it basic, otherwise I wouldn't do it. What are my three main goals for today? Before I've checked my email, before I've responded to messages, before I've hopped on social media, anything like that, I'm looking here. It's Tuesday morning, whatever it might be. What do I want to have done by the end of today that I know is important? Not something someone else throws at me, not something that I recognize as important because of a post here or an email there. What are the three things that I will feel good about if I finish before the end of the day? And this helps anchor me because I can get pulled to emails. I can get pulled into new
Yes.
projects that seem shiny and exciting, but aren't that important, but they're fun in the moment.
Right.
But if I have those three things and I've said to myself, you got to do these, I prioritize.
That's great.
Yeah. So I like those two. And then the third might be more challenging for some people, but in the morning, I really like to mindfully meditate for at least 5 minutes. So again, I try to keep it short, but what I'd say is 1 minute. Absolutely. Do this. But for me, I like to listen to guided meditations. You can find some on YouTube. They have them on
Yeah.
the Headspace apps. Some people just like silence. But if I don't do it in the morning, I don't do it. I've got
Yeah.
kid, dogs, wife, like evening time, I'm dead by the time the whole family shut down. I'm like, I can't think.
Right.
I try to meditate and I fall asleep. So I do
Yeah.
something, but I really just try to focus on my breath or do whatever the guided meditation is showing me, and I'm not too picky. But here, this helps center me and calm me to start the day. And then throughout the day, I like to do things like be active. I have to be active in some way. But what I like to highlight to my clients is this doesn't have to be an hour of exercise. Being active could mean midday, instead of having, a lunch and sitting and reading something, have a quick lunch and walk my dogs. So I'm going to give them a 10-minute walk. It's good for them. I'm moving. Because what
Right.
we see is that when we study the benefits of exercise, of movement, oftentimes it's not, a hit class at the gym or, extreme weightlifting. In the literature and science, it's often just walking. So here, and even if you can't walk, you're sitting at your desk, movements like, sorry, I backed up like you could see my legs. Movements like calf raises. So just sitting under your desk and raising your calves have been shown to benefit blood glucose regulation. So you don't have to have time for a workout to be,
Right.
and there's a lot of calories burned for those of us who are just those kind of twitchy, Like I like to move. I can't sit still kind of people. Those
Right.
burn a ton more calories than the people who are cool just sitting for hours on end.
Yeah.
You're the person who's like, oh, I could just sit all day and work. I sometimes forget it's been 2 hours. You might need a little bit more of a prod, a reminder that, like, hey, get up, go to the bathroom, go get a glass of water, go walk down the hallway and back. Don't bring your phone. Just think about something else. Come back. You've reset and you've moved.
Yeah. Well, and what you said earlier really stuck out when you said when you get up in the morning, before you grab your phone, before you grab your device, you're
Yeah.
doing your gratitude, you're setting your intentions, because it is so easy if you've got your phone in your room to just grab it. Has anybody texted me? What do I need to attend to? Is there anything that's going on? And before you know it, you're either on it for 20 minutes
Hmm.
because you just get sidetracked, or I do
Yeah.
easily get sidetracked. It's like, oh, okay, so and so texted me, so I better text them back. And then, oh, that means I need to go order this. And it just is crazy. I should just not even have my device in my room. I think that it would be the ideal scenario is just to not have it near me because
Right.
it just is a time suck.
Do you find yourself waking up in the middle of the night and looking at it and like being up in the middle of the night looking?
No, I don't,
Yeah.
thankfully. When I go to
Yeah.
sleep, I go to sleep, thankfully.
Right.
But yeah, I am guilty of that. So I need to get my devices out of the bedroom. It's just too easy to just scroll, 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 and it can put you in a really weird mindset too. Like you were saying, overstimulation, but also just social media. And if you start seeing sad posts, somebody just died, even if it's a celebrity I didn't know, and it's like, oh, and before you even get out of bed, you've been on this roller coaster of
Right.
emotions. It's like, why do I feel terrible? And I haven't even had coffee yet.
Right? Right. And then you're not feeling good and you're not showing up for the people you actually care about. You wake up
Right.
and maybe you're a little snippy with your spouse or significant other. Maybe you are a little bit more irritable with your kids because you didn't have time for yourself. And all of a sudden, after you finished with your social media, they're already up and you didn't get that 5 minutes to have your coffee and
Right.
clearly for the day. And so
Right.
you're sacrificing those most close to you to care about a lot of stuff that's really distant. But and here again, I do this. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, when you were describing that, I thought there's been so many times where I go to check my phone for something and I'm like, why am I on Instagram? I remember getting on it. All of a sudden, I'm on Instagram and I go, why am I here? And I have to stop and think, why did I even open my phone in the first place? And I was, oh,
Right.
respond to an email. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I have to go actually do the thing I meant to do 20 minutes later.
That's exactly it. If it's us, it's got to be a lot of other people too. I have to believe that.
And the thing I like to highlight to people is if this is resonating with you, listeners and watchers out there, it is not your fault. So a lot of
Right.
people feel self-judgment and guilt and embarrassment around this. And I totally understand the nature of those feelings. They're all valid. But in my perspective, they're unfounded. We feel like we have a moral, ethical shortcoming when we are highly addicted to our phones, as it were. They are designed to be addictive, in not an innocent way either. They are designed to feed us content, to keep us scrolling, because that's what makes money, advertising dollars, things like this. We are the consumer of these devices. Our data, our eyes are being sold to those people who want to market and advertise to us. So the platforms want to keep us on for as long as possible.
Right.
So really, you're not going to luck into overcoming a phone addiction because that's a really strong, potent stimulus. You
Yeah.
set up some things to get away from this. But again, the first step is recognizing, wow, um, I spend way too much time on this platform. And if you don't recognize it, you can't do anything about it. And
That's
that's why
true.
I love the fact that the iPhone tracks your usage stats. So I can
Yeah.
see weeks when I'm like, oh, yeah, I was totally on way longer than I should have been. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it was that much. Because we're such poor judges of our actual, you try to think, what did I do yesterday? Well, I didn't, I wasn't on it that much. You look back 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
What could I have done with 4.5 hours?
That's so true. Yeah. But you have to think positive, right?
Exactly. But if you can recognize and say, all right, I want to do better. Not, I don't want to go down to 1 hour. That's never going to happen, right? I'm never going
Right.
to. Let me see if next week I can be on average 4 hours instead of 4.5.
Yeah.
That's that's way better. And then maybe if I get used to that, it's easier to go to 3.5. I think a lot of us want those quick New Year's Eve resolution style changes.
Right.
What we don't see is what I like to do is I like to think of, okay, how am I going to feel in September if I start doing this now in June? I'm going to feel so damn good if
That's
I
really
actually,
good. I like
right?
that. Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, tell
Yeah.
people how they can find you, Jamie. This has just been so awesome. Tell people how they
Yeah.
can find you.
Absolutely. So I will send links your way, Dawn, that you can throw in the captions of the
Yeah,
podcast. But I've got a website. It's manifestwellness.co, just .co. And on that site, I've got kind of lists of my offerings from coaching to organizational. So I work with individuals from a coaching perspective on how can we optimize wellness within the context of your life without disrupting it? And how can we cater this to you to allow you to achieve the things that you're most interested in that are most meaningful to you? Um, and then I work with organizations, I do workshops, as well as organizational consulting around how do we foster this in the workplace? How do we create a culture of wellness that is not only going to help the people in the business, the employees, but is also going to increase productivity. It's going to benefit the bottom line. So I do this type of work. You can find it all on manifestwellness.co. I will also drop a link that is a free 10 wellness habit starter guide. These are 10 small habits you can start today that will help you benefit from wellness practices without it interrupting your life. And
that's
if you're
great.
interested in that, and then I do on my website and the contact page, I do free 25-minute wellness consults. So if you're interested in learning more, you're interested in, hey, I've been thinking about this. Do you have suggestions for how I might implement this most effectively? Let's spend 25 minutes together. I love talking about this and talk about how can we fit this into your life in a sustainable and actionable way.
Awesome. Thank
Mm.
you so much for being here. This was just great. It was a feel good type of podcast, and you gave such tangible things that people can do. So I appreciate your time so very much. And I'm going to probably ask you to come back again.
It would be my pleasure, Dawn. I love your podcast and I
Oh,
love your
thank you.
energy. Yeah, and I'm so glad to be able to be here and talk with you today. And I'd love to come back and join you again.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Jamie. Take care.
Good seeing you, Dawn. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye bye.